Warm welcome, and I'll share some experiences today. I'll share some stories, personal stories, experiences, so that this comes alive for you. I've chosen this topic with a lot of care, and because I believe in this. The first thing that I want to tell you is a story. It's a Peruvian fable. It's a story from the land of Incas. So, all of you have heard of Mount Vesuvius? Anybody been to South America? You would have heard. Anyway, so the ancient Incas, the ancient Peruvian people, they really believed in the consciousness and the energy of all living things, and they believed that they needed to respect them and live in harmony. And there were three animals that they held in great respect. The first animal that they had held in great or represented the first level of consciousness was the snake. Now, we all know generally the qualities of the snake, but they felt that the snake was a symbol of strength and protection. And one feature one characteristic that we all know of a snake is that every year it changes its skin. And so they believe that the snake lets go of what's not useful for it and becomes new, wiser, mature. And as human beings in life, in trying to answer life's difficult question, we should shed off what is not useful for us, shed off our dark side, and continue to become wiser and more mature. The second level of consciousness is represented by the puma. We've heard of puma shoes, so it's a wild cat. So puma is actually master of the Amazon jungle, and it is known for its courage, its patience, its stability, and its adaptability. So, it can get very cold in the Andes mountain. So, it is able to navigate the jungle with its adaptability. It's got a thick skin. It can withstand very extreme temperatures, and it has the adaptability to adjust to its environment. And also it has patience. When it's hunting for its prey, then it has the patience to wait for the right moment before it pounces on the prey. The third thing is it's got a very nice strong tail, so it has stability. So when it's in precarious conditions, it keeps itself stable with that tail. So as human beings, we can, if we can adapt to our environment, if we can adjust with the circumstances, we go with the change, then we will be able to adjust to different circumstances, and also having patience and having stability. The third level of consciousness is represented by the condor. Condor is the biggest bird actually. It is a 10 feet wingspan, and it's very high up in the mountains, Andes mountains, and it purviews everything from that high position. And it represents the air, and its wings represent freedom. So to be able to perch so high up, to become so wise, so mature that you can attain that level of freedom, that you can survey everything from top, you have to change, you have to shed off what's not okay, you should have the patience, and you should have the courage to take on different circumstances. So why do I bring this story to you? It's about, what does consciousness mean? Can anybody kind of throw some light on it? What is consciousness? Awareness. So not just awareness, the state of being aware and responding to your surroundings. So when we say civic consciousness, it's not just being aware, it's also responding. So the question is, if as human beings we can raise our consciousness by imbibing some of these qualities, then we can also attain some degree of freedom as we grow in life. So why are you here today? I want you to take a moment and think about what would you like to take away from today's session. So we're talking about Mind for Gold, we're talking about raising consciousness. What are you ready to take away for yourself? So if you have a notepad or something, just note it down for you. You will need a little bit of paper, so yeah, if you have a book, great. Yeah, you have notepads in your bags. So we'll make a move on. So these are the three things we are looking at, and I hope you get some answers. Why handling your self-doubt is important? What can you do to feel empowered? How can you take responsibility for your own growth and fulfillment? Okay, and I hope you get some answers to these, or at least some thought-provoking, thoughts that will allow you to think a little more. So what I have for you today is just like introduction, context, setting, wheel of life. We want to look at how our life is right now. What are basic human needs? Liminality and law of the farm, leveraging your strength, 3 feet from gold, and then we'll wrap up. And I will keep pace a little bit because we have a fixed time and there's a next workshop that's going to be started. So what is that one situation that restricted your career growth? Can I just take a one word answer from each one of you?
Children.
Marriage, children, family basically. Anything else? Self-doubt, yes.
Opportunities.
Opportunities, what? Lack of knowledge. Was that support? Lack of support. Anything from you? Yeah, all right. So you know when I was doing this seminar for a webinar for the Inker, which is the other arm of Jobs for Her, you see most of it fell here. And you will see that a lot of us give a lot of importance to family, and women especially do, because it is our core job, looking after the family. Nobody tells us, but so many times once we have children, we don't want to go to work because we don't trust anybody with our children, right? I mean, I had 2 little kids and I said there's no way I'm going to leave them to someone when I can't handle them myself. So who do I think will be so motivated to handle? So let me talk about some, and the reason why I point this out, I wanted to put it in perspective. Sometimes we overemphasize on one need, and here is what I want you to know. But before that, let's just do a wheel of life. I want you to look at this. Think of areas, key areas in your life which are important to you and where you spend time and effort. So just think of the key areas in your life, and it could be anything. It could be, you know, children, family, fitness, spirituality, religion, relationships, fun, if you have a particular hobby, sports, anything. The reason why there is no set thing is you put your own key areas in your life, okay. So put that here, and then you have to shade it depending on the time and effort you are spending. Shade it on a scale of 0 to 10, just a sense of how much time and effort you spend on it. Make a circle, make a circle. Okay. You have to make a circle. Make 8 sections, at least 6 if not 8, because women are not unilateral, men are. Okay? Time and effort, yeah. So not percentage, it's not like you can have all at the same level, it's not percentage. Just a felt sense of, there's a word called phenomenological, it's a felt sense of things. So how much time and effort do you spend in that area? So your fitness, and it would, I guess, be from the, how much?
If you're doing one thing, you'll give 100% to it. So
How?
if you're going for running, like the marathon, so you'll be running for like 4 hours. So if you're doing cooking.
So I think it's got to do with how much you want to spend. Is it the amount that you want to spend? If you want to spend 4 hours and you're spending 4 hours, I think you can go right up to 10, right? That's the way it works.
So we have to indicate the number of hours.
No, just a scale. Just it should look something like this. Okay? Right. But remember, these are your key areas that are important to you. So how's your wheel looking? Huh? Is it looking somewhat like this? Worse? Yeah. And what's the quality of a wheel? It rolls, right? And if it's got ragged edges like this, how will it roll? It will be jumping off the ground, and sometimes it will be, you'll feel like you've hit the ground, sometimes you'll feel you're up in the sky. So it's going to be rather a bumpy ride, yes? Now this is, sometimes when we put it on paper, it comes face to face. You are spending time, you're not spending time doing things that are very, very important to you. And I want to put it in the context of our human needs, okay? So you might have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? But this I have bring to you from Tony Robbins. He has worked with 3 million people, and he talks about 4 basic personality needs and 2 spiritual needs. And so, the first set of need is, the first need that each one of us has is a need for certainty. Each one wants certain predictability, certain consistency, safety, security, knowing, like stuff like I have a home to go back to, I have food to eat. So, all those basic needs we need to be met. And remember that these are needs, these are not wants and desires. So, it is every human being has them, some more degree and less degree. And if we become more aware of our needs, then we can be aware of why am I making the choices that I am making and what decisions do I need to take. So, every individual is motivated by these needs. So, the first need of certainty, as I talked about, is a need for wanting security, safety, predictability, consistency. Now, on the positive side, on a very basic primal level, it allows us to sustain our DNA. So, reproduction is a human need and instinct, so that our DNA is sustained. It comes from a primitive need. On a more practical level, it allows us to pay our bills. It allows us to feel safe in what we are doing. It allows us to feel safe in our relationships. So, but on the challenging side, the problem with the need for certainty, if we are spending too much time fulfilling that need, is that the world around us is changing. If you have a teenager kid, you know what it is about. People around us are changing. So, you know that 10-year-old who is to love you, hug you, run to you and hug you, doesn't want you to even touch him now. For some, you know, they become so independent suddenly, and I guess all of you are very young, probably don't have teenage children, you do? So, they suddenly become very different, and Monisha testifies to that. So, the thing is, the world around us is changing, the people around us are changing, but when we have a very high need for certainty, we put a fence of control around us, and we resist change, and we resist healthy change also, and that's where the problem comes in. The other contradictory, paradoxically, we have the need for uncertainty. We want variety, we want excitement, we want challenge, we want to do something different. It's like every day eat only sambar rice and nothing else all your life. Are you going to be okay with it? No, you want pizza, you want pasta, you want burger, or whatever you like to have. So, we have the need for uncertainty as well. Now, on the positive side, the need for uncertainty is great because it allows us to change, go with the flow. It allows us to, you know, change on the inside to meet with external change. So, we adjust, right? And let me tell you, if you don't have teenage kids, yes, and they are going to get into teenage, it is you who's going to adjust, not your child. He's going to grow the way. So, you have to actually, from being a mother who's thinking every moment, and of course, I am presuming everyone is a mother here, but just because that's such a transitional change in every woman's life, that you are needed for like every moment. It's like a helpless thing that comes to you, and they don't know anything for themselves, and if you're not there, it's like they say, because God couldn't be everywhere, He created moms, you're there. And now this child says, listen, I don't need you. What are you to do as a mother? You have to change. So, changing with the change that's needed outside, changing internally, so that that change is comfortable. So, that's on the positive side. On the negative side, we can create instability. If we change locations too often, if we change jobs too often, and the ultimate changing spouses or partners too often. So, it can create instability for you, for people around you. Now, both these needs work paradoxically. When you have imbalance in one, like for example, when my first child came, she came within 10 months of my marriage, and I was like, what is this demanding thing? I can't even do anything. I mean, every 5 minutes I have to check whether this, unfortunately for a little while I didn't have enough help. And so one time when I went out for lunch, it was like, oh, thank God, now I can go back and do this job. Because when you have imbalance in one, in this, you can get balance from getting something from the other side. The third need for significance is the need for significance, and that's the reason you are here today. All of us have a need, not a want, not a desire, to be part of a bigger whole. to be an effective part of a bigger whole, to give expression to what we want to do, our individual way of being and giving expression to what we want to do, to have external validation and pride in the work that we do, and therefore have an identity of our own. So, on the positive side, that is what it helps us to do. It allows us to create an identity where we are acknowledge to ourselves and we say, I am doing this work and I enjoy doing this and I am proud of the work that I am doing, and just acknowledge it for yourself humbly. On the negative side, the need for significance can lead us to be too focused on one aspect of our life. So, you could be doing, either you are too dependent on input from one person or validation of one person. Typically for married women, because the closest person to us is the spouse, if he says it's good, it's good. If he says it's bad, it's bad. Am I my own person or not? Does he ask you for everything? No. So, and I lived that life too if my husband gave an opinion, and now I'm like, I don't think you know enough about this. So anyway, so also we can focus too much on one need. The last need, and this is again paradoxical, love and connection. We all have a need to form genuine bonds, authentic relationships where we feel that our love is unconditional. The love for us is unconditional. This is a study which says that every person in this world needs at least one individual who loves them unconditionally for us to feel safe and whole. So, while significance fills our cup for a moment, for temporarily, but it's authentic relationships. That's why Steve Jobs on his deathbed talked about why relationships are important. That's why you need to spend time with them, because he had spent too much time doing this. So, on the positive side, it's good that it gives us that love and connection, that makes us feel whole. It is also part of our safety in relationships. But on the negative side, if you spend many years doing that, there will come a day when this need will not be met, because you wouldn't have given it time and space. So, these are the 4 needs, and these work paradoxically also. So, you have to keep a balance on both. Now, the other 2 needs are the needs of the spirit, which is a need for growth. The need for growth. Now, every human being, every microorganism, even a creative endeavor, it needs to grow. If something like Jobs for Her doesn't invest time, effort, creativity in it, what will happen? It will taper away, it will stagnate, and then one day things can die if they don't grow. And they feed on this. The need for growth feeds on these first 4 needs. And the thing with the need for growth is, have you met somebody who keeps studying, does not feel safe in applying those skills? You have to, at one point, say, okay, I know enough, I'll go and apply. And I'm not setting myself up for perfection. But I will apply, I will make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. You have to give ourselves permission to do that. And just now Neha quoted something from her mother's perspective, that unless you wander, you will never reach your destination. The worst is never to step out, because then definitely you will not reach your destination, right? So, need for growth. Now, so we should give ourselves permission to make mistakes and be imperfect, because really you are a human being and you continue to be. And the last need is the need for contribution, which is that all of us want to be bigger than what we are right now. We have the need for growth. We need to be able to contribute to society beyond ourselves. If I had all my needs met and I left you in an island, would you be all right? No, we have to do things for others. So, unless we do that, we don't feel whole and complete. So, now the main thing is, are we meeting these needs resourcefully, or are we meeting them unresourcefully? So, am I meeting my need for significance by telling my 13-year-old that, listen, have you taken this, have you taken this, have you taken that, and that's how you're meeting your need for significance, because you're a very important person in that person's life. But beyond a time, he's going to say, mother, I have a girlfriend now, can you lay off? And then what are you going to feel? You will feel insignificant. Your sense of pride will be lost. Neha talked about it. She says, I had put my responsibilities on the shoulder of a 3.5-year-old, and when he threw a tantrum, then I felt, you know, that, oh, my work is lost. But you can't do that. You have to have. And I want to share one personal example. So, you know, and that is to do with the need for uncertainty and certainty, that we were in Gurgaon, we had a wonderful life, my kids were going to the best school, Shri Ram school, and they were in their high school, teenage and high school years, and I had almost shed many tears to even get them admission. And we'd been, first time we had been in a place for 6 years, and we were doing wonderfully well, and my husband gets in, I'm what you call a trailing spouse. So he got a job in, he got transferred to Nigeria, and he was being elevated. He was getting the first time the position of a managing director of West Africa for the company that he was working for. And so we went for a look and see. Now Nigeria, you know, is famous for its insecurity, law and order situation, armed robbers. My husband used to say, if armed robbers don't get you, the mosquitoes will. It's equally famous for its, infamous for malaria. Many people die because of malaria. So we went there and we went for a look and see, and my husband, I could see wheels whirring in his head. He could see growth opportunities, how we'll grow the business. And I just zipped myself. I zipped my mouth. I said, I'm going to say, I didn't want to go. I went telling my friend, passive behavior, it's passive behavior. But I still didn't say anything to him because I thought it was an opportunity for him. And along with the kids we went, and I was like, what will I do here? My learning and development, I do stuff like emotional intelligence and all, and who's going to listen to me? People said, no, 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 that market is not very good. You cannot do stuff like emotional intelligence. Maybe you can do time management. So I said, okay. So we went there, and would you believe it? I got the job offer from KPMG. And if I had looked the whole world over, I wouldn't have found a job that fitted me like that. And I not only performed, I was very scared. So I told my husband, I've never worked for the Big Four. How am I going to do this job? So he said, you'll do it. He kind of assured me. So that was my only source where I could say anything. Not only did I perform it, I got promoted in 1.5 years. And when we were leaving 3.5 years later, my name came up for partnership. And I was going to say no to it. But obviously, I had to change in the inside to handle the change outside. So I just wanted to give you an example of how we can get stuck to certainty, but if you let it flow and change according to the need, then you can actually make much more. And the thing that I want to tell you is that the confidence that I got in that job, because of the recognition that I got, everybody in the firm knew me, because I used to meet all of them in the training room. And I never lost that confidence. We moved 3-4 times more, but my confidence did not dip. Whenever it did, I had that to tell me and hold me up. Yeah? So, how are you meeting these needs? What can you do to be resourceful in fulfilling these needs? I see some sighs. So that's the question you need to ask yourself, and you can dwell on it. I also want to share the concept of liminality and law of the farm. I've written an article called Liminal Space, and I want you to read it because I think I'm very proud of that article because I've really researched it and written it in depth, and it helped me to handle my life, and I think it will help you. So just Google liminality, Smriti Goyal, you'll find it. LinkedIn, you're going to find it. It's published in a couple of places. So what is liminality? So there was this anthropologist called you will be able to see all this when you on the website. You can see here the whole recording, so no need to take notes unless you want to specially take some notes. So liminality is, so Arthur Van Gennep, Arnold Van Gennep, he was an anthropologist, and he developed the concept of liminality. So what happens is he did this work called Rites the Passage, that is, youngsters, when they are initiating into teenage years, there's a ceremony that's performed. That's to kind of let them go, because that's the time to experiment, to do different things. And when they become kind of adults, when they've experimented, then it becomes, they do another ceremony to welcome them back into our normal world. In fact, there's one psychologist, she says, teenagers should hand a placard saying, my brain is out of function. Because actually, scientifically, the teenagers, the prefrontal cortex has not grown. If you've seen there's an Harvard Business Review article, and this is the rational part of her brain. So it's very surprising, a teenager who can do many things suddenly acts like he has no common sense, and it's because this rational part of brain gets short circuited because it's not fully developed yet. So they actually leave them to experiment, and not only that, because they leave them to experiment, the society knows that you have to cope with them in that way, because they've been initiated into the liminal space. So limin is a word that comes from Latin called threshold, and liminality is the space where you are disoriented. You are neither here nor there. You are between and betwixt. And I am sure a lot of you can associate with that. It's a sense of drifting. You are feeling in limbo. You don't know what your arrival, you know what your point is of when you got into liminal space, but you don't know what your point of arrival is going to be. And that is the liminal space. And the other thing that I want to juxtapose with liminality is law of the farm. Have you heard of law of the farm? Huh? Okay. So if you wanted a tree laden with fruits, is it possible to plant a seed today and get it tomorrow? So that's the law of the farm, that we all have it in us to plant a seed, nurture it, watch over it as it burgeons, and make it grow into a healthy plant. And with time, it will give its fruit. But none of us can want the fruit and just do it now. So my question to you, if you are in the liminal space, what seed do you want to plant now, so that when you are at the point of arrival, you can enjoy the fruits of that work that you have done? And really, when I talk about this, I'm going to say, continue to invest in yourself. You don't know how it's going to be useful. Okay? So just changing tack a little bit. What are 2-3 positive things that people said about you before you took a career break? Do you remember? Huh? Continue anyhow. No, strengths, positive things. Yeah, that's okay. But what are the good things, good qualities that they talked about? Quickly. Confidence, diligence, hard work, good people skills. See, bhul gaye na sab, you've forgotten. People used to say nice things about you. Yeah? It takes so long to dig it out and say, yes, that was you. Anyway, I'm going to start a series of 5-part articles which is to do with your genius. And if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you can read it. I'll post it on RestartHer also. What are the strengths you have developed since you took a career break?
Patience. Multitasking.
Huh? Multitasking, patience, what else?
Maybe relationships.
Relationships, yes. Yeah, those in-laws. Even your own people, because who used to depend on you, now you don't have the time, right? Because you're dealing with so many things. So don't ever discount what you had and what you've developed. Some of these skills that you've developed in this part of your life, they're going to be useful forever, and no corporate will teach them. No corporate can teach you that, okay? So do not discount them. What is it that you will do if you were guaranteed to succeed? If I told you, you know what, in 6 months you'll be where you want to be, what is it that you will do today? How does your mindset change? So if you knew that post-liminal space, what's your point of arrival, what would you do today? How would you be? Wouldn't you be different? And you have made the first step by coming here, right? You have been different. So round of applause for yourself for that. So before I finish, I want to talk about this story. It's a true story. So in the 1950s, there was rush for gold in the US, and lots of people went to kind of get millionaires, billionaires overnight. In fact, Trump's father actually found his gold there in Alaska. That's how he has all that wealth. This is a true story of a guy called R.U. Darby. He had an uncle called Harvey, and his uncle actually, in that gold rush fever, he went west and he found a vein of gold in the mountains or wherever. And he came back and he took his nephew, he borrowed money to get a machine and so that he could drill for gold. And they went there and they drilled for gold. And they got a car full of gold and they said, wonderful, we are going to be millionaires, you know, we are going to be rich and it will be such fun, you won't really have to work a day in our life. But the vein of gold ran out after a little while. So they had just gathered enough to pay off all their debts, etc. But they were assailed with doubts, they were besieged with all kind of thoughts that mean, how did we even think? Who becomes rich overnight? How would we have, why did we even think that? It's just our life, I mean circumstances, we are never going to be like that. And so what they did, they decided to quit. And they sold the machine that they bought to a junk guy. And they left for their home. Now junk guy said, so there was vein of gold here, let me call a mining engineer. He called a mining engineer and he came. He said, you know what, there are fault lines. The chances are that this vein of gold has stopped here, but it will start somewhere else. And the mining engineer found that 3 feet below the vein of gold started again. And the junk guy became very, very rich. And R.U. Derby was actually, he learned his lesson very well. He said not to quit because gold is just 3 feet away from you. And he actually learned a very good lesson that he never took no for an answer and became an extremely successful insurance person, so insurance agent. And what I'm trying to say to you is that stay relevant, invest in yourself, don't give up. You're only 3 feet away from gold. Mine for gold within you because it is within you. And as when you come there, I want to talk about this because I created this program out of my life. It's inspired from, like Pooja said, I've restarted many, many times. And I have learned, I've continuously invested in myself. So I have, if I went to a new country, I first took a course, I found a new community, I looked for jobs. I went to London and they said, you know, first job will be difficult, and but I nevertheless kept trying, and it has never failed me. The only thing I didn't do was give up. So I wish you all the very best. Do come and meet me later and we can talk some more. All right? Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
What's your background? Like, what do you have to study to become a student? Just curious.
My path is very checkered. I did maths honors as my graduation. I did finance, MBA in finance. I worked for 5 years in finance. Took a 6-year career break. When I came back to work, it was a project that translated into training, and that's when I realized that, oh, this is what I love, and I'm never looking back. And my husband actually invested in a personal development program for me, and that time it costed us 23,000, and this is 20 years back. And I said, why are you investing money? Don't. He said, no, go, it's good. He had done it. And I said, okay. And I was so motivated that I never looked back. And not only that, I was with Citibank on a retainership. That time they reimbursed the money because I said, look, I'm doing so many good things for you because I got excited with this. And they said, we have a policy of reimbursing our vendors. We'll reimburse 50%. I said, good. So invest in yourself. And the only thing, and like everybody will tell you here who's restarted, take that step. If you don't take that step, you'll never know what you lost out. And it's not easy to live with a feeling insignificant. So don't let your significance coming from love and connection make you think you don't want it. You do want it. Thank you so much for listening.